Hello and welcome to AviaDev Insight Africa, the podcast offering a window to the world of African aviation with your host, John Howell, CEO and founder of AviaDev Africa. Today, we welcome somebody back to the podcast that I last spoke to, I can't believe it, but 2 years ago. That is Judy Waruiru, who is the Regional Managing Director for East Africa at Network International, who are a payment solutions provider. Prior to joining Network, Judy spent lots of time working in the airline space, specifically for Jambo Jet over there in Kenya and also Qatar Airways as well. So she's got a strong aviation history, strong history of digitisation and digital space, and also now, of course, in the payment side as well. Now, today we are accompanied by a blog post that's been prepared by the team. That will be available via the link in the show notes. So do head there so you can have a read of that as well. It focuses on the changing landscape of payments and the importance of a robust solution, which of course will reduce friction, reduce costs and maximize revenues, which of course in a tight margin environment and operating environment such as airlines is super important. So welcome back to the podcast, Judy.
Thank you, John. It's great to be back.
Yeah, it really is great to have you back as well. And I can't believe it's been 2 years, but when we spoke last time, you were in the process of moving from DPO to Network. So people might be saying, Judy, that rings a bell, DPO. And DPO's always been really strong in the airline space, a lot of that driven by yourself and your experience, as we talked about, and has been present at AviaDev over the last few years as well. So what I want to start with is, we're in that period massively now of post-COVID recovery. We're seeing airlines reporting higher load factors. We're seeing them report higher revenues. The question I've got for you is, has the demand for payment digitization and simplification, has that continued?
Yeah, when we last spoke, I was transitioning from DPO Pay. We are now rebranded under the Network umbrella. We are part of Network International. And it's been a great journey so far. And what that has done is it has made us have a stronger legacy and continued growth in the airline industry. And in terms of acceleration for payment digitization, we are seeing more and more airlines positioning payments as a strategy priority. And what is people asking for different solutions to simplify checkout process, to localize payments. And some of the factors that are driving this demand is things like the consumer behavior. So what is the consumer has moved more to mobile first, whereas before we sat behind a computer, then we moved into gadgets like the iPads. Now everybody's on their mobile and you want a mobile first experience. You want to be able to quickly check out through your mobile. You want to be able to do your booking through mobile. So we're seeing a trend from the consumer moving more to mobile, looking for contactless payment as well through that. COVID drove a lot of contactless payment solutions. So you don't want to handle anything that you need to touch, so that you want all that done through contactless, which could be your mobile. So what you're seeing is people are storing their card on mobile wallets. And of course, in Africa, mobile money then picked up and the growth more than doubled as a result. So you see again, airlines looking for mobile money as a solution, whereas before card acceptance was enough. So we're seeing quite a lot of drivers. Other things driving is localization. So you're seeing if you don't have a local form of payment, in Kenya we have M-Pesa. If you're not accepting M-Pesa as an airline, you're losing a whole lot of consumers that you're not targeting. So it's a mixture of things that have driven this speed for digitization and making payments a strategic priority for airlines. Additionally, I would not conclude this without talking about the cost saving, because we all know how small margins are for airlines, and it's around how do you optimize? Because if you're not careful, payments can be one of your highest costs because of the sheer volume of transactions that go through some form of payment mode. And if you're not careful, so it's another drive you're seeing airlines looking at, how do I save? How do I optimize? At the same time, maximize revenue with the right payment partner.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've just touched on something, and we will come to some more of the specifics when it comes to the payment types. The most important thing that I gather from that is that your solutions are driven by the customer behavior. So you know what the customers want, the airlines are telling you that, and then it's about finding a way to reduce that friction, which I think is a term we used a lot last time we spoke, is don't tell people how they have to pay, what the process is, allow multiple methods so long as it's safe, secure, and everybody's happy and it can be processed with a platform like yours, then you don't lose out. But you did touch on something I did in my intro as well, and it's in the blog post talking about that thin profit margin that all airlines have, even the biggest airlines. It may sound like a huge amount of money, but the actual percentage margin is quite thin. And of course, all airlines are driving to increase the revenue and reduce costs. So based on the research that you did for the blog article, like how big a portion of revenue and profit is payment, and can it be for airlines as a whole?
So I would say on average, payment costs account for around 1.5 to 3.5% of the airline's total revenue. And that depends on the channel. So you find if you diversify your payment, so you're using different providers by channel, whether it's a direct channel or indirect, which is the BSPs, ARCs, you will find your costs going higher. But if you use one provider, then you're able to get scale, negotiate lower rates. There's also the cost of currency, cross-border costs. We deal in a market where currency devaluation and forex instability is very common. So then there's that risk as well, and it comes as a cost. And there's of course the payment method mix. The payment methods vary. So you find card payments are a bit more expensive than say mobile money. So it's how are you providing the right payment to meet the consumer needs by market. And one of the overlooked costs that are still related to payment is fraud and chargeback rates, where if you're not managing those two, your costs can really escalate. And we're talking of about 50 to 20% of the net profit. So it's something that airlines cannot ignore, that they need to really zone in when it comes to protecting their margins.
Yeah, we've talked about fraud on the previous podcasts as well. And I think it's such a big element. And obviously airlines are always targeted. But the thing that comes out to me there was talking about customer acquisition and also getting as many as possible to become direct bookers and direct purchasers rather than having to rely on third parties, which always incur higher fees. There's this push pull always in the industry about being available everywhere, but obviously want to control that distribution. Some airlines are very comfortable and just say, look, we will deal with this, we'll take the cost. Others are ultra aggressive to try and get those direct payments. And I see quite a lot of that happening in the East Africa region for sure. So let's talk about that customer acquisition and the variety of payment methods that you offer. But something else that has come out that has become a new trend, definitely here in the UK, is the whole idea of buy now, pay later, sort of a credit and a staggered payment for something. Is that now coming to the fore as well as an alternative way of receiving payment?
Yes, definitely. I would say buy now, pay later is now helping people be able, for large ticket sizes, to be able to pay for travel. And especially if you're maybe doing 1 or 2 trips a year, you're able then to plan for that. And it's something that we as network are able to offer our airlines, where you can put a down payment for travel and you're able to pay maybe within a period of time, 6 months, and you pay in installments. What we are seeing as well is the emergence of also players. So as network, we work with partners. So there are players coming into the market who just specialize in credit rating and offering the buy now pay later as a form of payment, which we are able to support our travel and airline partners. And the reason it's gaining popularity is travel is now becoming a must-have, whereas before it was a luxury thing to have, but now post-COVID, travel has become the norm. And even people who never used to travel as often, you're finding people doing 3, 4, 5 holidays in a year. So because of that kind of trend, then buy now, pay later becomes very attractive, and you're able to plan and afford trips as you spread your payments across a period of time.
Yeah, I think the change in behavior is really exciting. And we're seeing that obviously for the airlines, that they're not relying on the same core of people that travel on a regular basis. Actually,
Yeah.
we're stimulating a whole new market now, and not just people who are traveling for business or for governmental reasons, but actually have disposable income, are traveling for leisure. And again, if they're not used to this, if they don't have corporate accounts, giving them the ability to pay for this. And the other thing that you really hit on, which I think is absolutely true, is travel has increased. I think people being locked in their homes for a period of time, they thought life's too short, I want to see the world. And of course, that's what we do through our wonderful industry, is allow them to do this. And doing things like this, that you're working in concert with these companies, because they're really the credit providers. All you're doing is facilitating the payment in installments for the passengers. So I think, again, the more airlines that get on board with this, the better in many ways. And the other thing that's very important here is, of course, understanding this behavior and getting ahead of it. And this is where, again, you as a team can come in from a data perspective to understand, okay, where are the majority of your bookings coming from? How are they paying? How's this changing month on month, year on year, day on day? And that then can inform the airline in terms of its marketing strategy. So can you fill us in on this a little bit more?
Yeah, so what you find is every transaction tells a story, because we collect data from a transaction. We collect your name, we collect your travel preferences, we're able to collect your payment method, your spend behavior, and all that data is some form of gold for a marketer. Then this helps an airline build accurate customer persona when they're doing marketing campaigns. And the beauty about this is that the airline then, when they're building products, when they're doing marketing campaigns, they're able to upsell, they're able to offer the correct product. If it is an ancillary product they're offering, they can tell, okay, this customer booked last year in summer, they had excess baggage. Maybe we should offer a baggage option during the booking time this time, or they traveled with children. Maybe we should offer this at this time, so that you're able to offer customized and relevant ancillary options and upsell opportunities to customers at the right time, and you're able to get better conversion. So data is key in this time and age that we are in. And what you find is any airline that is able to utilize data, they end up having a higher return on investment. On data, they're able to have loyal customers, they're able to tap into their customers and build loyalty and have relevant products. So for me, I think data is key. And whether it's from the beginning of a transaction or when you complete a transaction, it doesn't mean that's the end. You're actually starting a relationship with that customer, because you've just collected very relevant data that you're able to then target the customer with the right product and enhance the brand and product and airline experience.
Yeah, and this is something close to your heart with your time at Jambo Jet and Qatar. This was your job, know the customer. And it's changed so much, though, in terms of, you say loyalty's always been there. And actually, that is important. But the element that a lot of airlines are starting to focus on now is ancillary revenues. And as you say, the data and offering somebody the right product at the right time can really make a difference to airline revenues. And it's definitely something we're seeing and we're talking about at Aviadev as well. While we're on the transaction note, just for the airlines listening, can we talk about the speed of transaction and the reconciliation from purchase? Because we hear often that cash can be stuck when they're trying to repatriate funds, or it takes time to go through a particular system and the airlines to see that cash. And they obviously need it to be able to maintain the aircraft, pay the fuel providers, the crew, and all the other big bills that they've got to pay. How does that work with your systems?
Thanks for that, John. I think I'll say most of the airlines, what you're finding is during post-COVID, they have expanded destinations, they have increased frequency. They're flying into new territories that perhaps they had never flown to before. And what happens is the new territories, there are regulations, there's cash regulations, there's digitisation regulations, and how cross-border payments, rather. So what you find is if the airline does not understand the market, then they really struggle to make revenue or profits in that market. And that's where network comes in. because for us, we are a company for Africa and we do payments in Africa. And what we do for airlines is we are able to offer you localized payment options. So whether you're in a market in West Africa, in Ghana, whether you're flying to Botswana, whether you're flying to Malawi, we are able to offer you localized payment solutions where you're able to offer your customers in those markets local currency options, and you're able to offer local mobile money. In Africa, it's mobile money options because you don't want to be collecting cash in this day and age, because then how do you get it out? And then we remove the headache of moving your money out of those markets, because that's what we specialize in, and we settle your funds to wherever you prefer. So we handle that headache for airlines. We're able to give you a customized solution for your clients in those markets. Whereas traditionally, global airlines offered just card payments. And what you found is you are not offering a relevant payment option. So at checkout, the customer would abandon that transaction and go to a traditional form of payment where they can pay cash or where they can then pay using a form of payment that they have that is not available on your channel. So for direct channels for airlines, we are able to localize the form of payment. And at the same time, what I'm not mentioning is because we work with local partners, your transaction cost is minimized to almost 1%. Whereas if you did acquired that transaction cross-border, you'd be paying to up to 3 to 4% of your revenue. So we're able to bring that transaction acquisition cost for you because we are working with local acquiring partners. And that's a headache we remove from you. Your work is to fly the customer. Your work is to make sure the customer is able to book. Our work is to make sure we collect payments and that we're able to offer a seamless checkout experience for your customer.
Yeah. Stick to what you're good at and let the experts stick to what they're good at. I totally agree. And you did touch on this in an earlier response talking about fraud, and it would be remiss of us not to talk about that before the end of the session. You explained about how big a problem it can be, but also it's just a headache for the airlines dealing with this. And it's very upsetting for everybody when these kind of things happen. But we know airlines are particular targets. So what I'm really interested in here is how do you support the prevention of that? Because when we talked a couple of years ago, we talked a lot about fraud, but it was before really the dawn of the AI revolution. So I'm sure AI plays a part in this as well.
You'd be surprised that airline is one of the industries targeted for fraud. And the reason for that is the ease of moving that ticket into somebody else's hand. So the way fraud happens in the industry is because the fraudster wants to buy a high value product or service that they can resell and make cash immediately. And airline is in that space. So what you find is we are able, because of the number of airlines that we process for in the 18 years we've been in the business, we are able to then have a whole history of trends. We have a history of data and fraud statistics that we're able to tap into. Additionally, we are using different tools for protecting the airlines, whether it's AI, we're keeping ourselves up to the trend and making sure that whether it's our systems, whether it's cybersecurity, we're always on top of our game to protect the airline. So what you find is a lot of the airlines that work with us hardly have any fraud issues. And what we do is we're even able to advise them, maybe you had an attack, hadn't we had this tool, you'd have lost this much revenue. So we're able to show value in terms of how much we save the airline from any attacks that they may have. And they do have attacks. And of course, beyond that, we've seen the payment industry has advanced in the terms of the 3D secure platforms. The technology has advanced from what it used to be, where you just had to enter a PIN. Now it's AI driven. There's a lot of data driving the different security parameters. We're moving into biometrics payment. We're moving into tokenization. All these are forms of ways to protect fraudsters from intercepting a transaction. So there are different technologies coming up, and just to be able to fight fraud and protect the customer and the airline.
Yeah, it's a huge issue. And that's really interesting to say, look, we're preventing this and we can actually show you how much we prevented from being an issue. It wasn't an issue, but that was because we had these safeguards in place. AviaDev, you're going to be on one of our panels and it is all about AI. So we've touched on it there from a fraud perspective. It's creeping into our everyday lives. I'm using it more and more, but I don't want to rely on it entirely. Of course, this is actually me and Judy talking. It's not avatars of us, which is always nice. So outside of the fraud space, just to give us a bit of an idea, like how much of a role is AI playing in, number one, what you're doing today, but also the future strategy and how much of it is relying on the old way of doing things?
We touched a bit on the data for customers. So AI is big on helping us pick on trends, collect data, and interpret that data to be able to optimize it for either using it for marketing or using it for product development, and also to use it as a competitive edge. So we use AI a lot to generate customized reports that give us and give as well airlines very customized trends to see which are your peak days in terms of payment, who are your most repeat customers, how are you able then to build that, which customers are using you a lot but don't belong to your loyalty program, how do you loop them in. So AI is being used a lot for data and more around reporting and intelligent reporting. The other thing we use AI for, of course, in most industries is customer support. We're using that a lot to help manage the customer volume so that there's more self-service and less, which means when there's more self-service, then the turnaround time is faster. So we're building just not bots, but we're able to pick in terms of the trends, what kind of queries are coming in, maybe through our call centers, through our email channels, and we're able to give customers the one to build products that where they self-service and they're able to solve issues on their own without having to rely on an agent to respond to a query, whether it's payment that's not gone through, whether it's an issue to do with conversion. And there's quite a lot we can do with AI, but yet we are yet to get there, I believe, whether it's cost saving or opportunities to increase revenue.
Yeah, I think the data analysis element is quite commonplace now. That is a really good place to put in and get the AI to do a lot of the hard work. And then, of course, the individuals, the humans can interpret that. AI can help with that too. And the customer support side, I think you talk a lot about. I know that a lot of people's toes curl when they hear the term chatbot or whatever it may be, but the way that's come on now and the fact that it can simplify the process, reduce overheads, and get you the result you want quicker because you're not having to rely on somebody to respond who's dealing with 20 requests at the same time. And it also provides guaranteed consistency in terms of the response. This is the beauty of it, is that you can train it to say the same thing to the same query, whereas humans are fallible when it comes to that. So there's definite use to this. We're really excited to hear some more of these use cases and your thoughts on where this is going with the other panelists, because we have panelists coming from Kenya Airways, which will be really interesting to talk about how they're operating and what they're doing. And then we've got some revenue guys as well who are looking at using AI to improve the revenue management processes within airlines too. So where you sit is really complementary to that. And I'm looking forward to that session immensely in Zanzibar in a couple of weeks. Yeah, really great to have you back on the podcast, Judy. Thank you for being with us today.
John, I really appreciate it. It's always fun being in the podcast, as always. And I look forward to Zanzibar.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can't wait. It's only a couple of weeks away now. And obviously the network team will be there. We'll be taking meetings. We'll have an exhibition stand and a little booth where they'll be taking those meetings. Judy will be on the stage. We'll be there together for a couple of days. So if you did enjoy the podcast, I've put the links in there so you can find out some more about network through the website. There's obviously the blog post. You can connect with Judy as well and the team. And we will look forward to seeing you in Zanzibar for those who can join. For those who can't, please share this episode with somebody in your network you think would benefit. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss another episode. And we will be back for the next one very soon. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Take care and bye-bye for now.